Presenting, ladies and gentlemen, the cursed Kitetsu blades! Sandai! Nidai! And there's another one too, Shodai, but I don't know what it looks like. It's probably this one wielded by Samurai Gandhi of the Gorosei, but who knows? I'm gonna put these down now because these are really truly cursed swords. I've cut myself on the Sandai before, and that's truly impressive because it's a decorative sword. It doesn't have an edge. It doesn't have a blade. And yet I've cut myself on it before. So I'm just gonna set this over here. Okay. So, I've made a lot of videos about the Kitetsu, so let's just cut to the chase. Is Zoro going to get the Shodai? And you might be wondering, why are we jumping to the Shodai? When the Nidai is in Wano right now. Nobody cares about the Nidai. I mean, the Nidai is cool. It's purple. It's lavender. It's nice. But everybody wants to know, is Zoro gonna get the damn Shodai? Is he gonna get the Saijo Owazamono, the most cursed sword in the entire world, wielded by probably this guy of the Gorosei? Which, by the way, this isn't a guarantee or anything like that. We just assume that he has the Shodai Kitetsu because it looks just like the Sandai Kitetsu as well as just like the Nidai Kitetsu. But, you know, it's not a guarantee. We don't know. Oda could always spin it like, oh no, he just happens to have a sword that looks a lot like the Kitetsus, but it's not a Kitetsu, right? We just never know, right? But no, everybody wants to see Zoro get the damn thing because ever since back at Logtown, when Tashigi makes her first appearance and she's going on and on about the Kitetsus and Ippon Matsu's there and he's talking about how cursed they are, they're like, man, okay, there's this ultimate cursed sword somewhere in the world. Zoro's like a demon. He has to get his hands on one. There was a theory that was around for a little while before people started to realize just how important like the wado ichimonji, because this stuff started in like the East Blue or whatever. At the end of the East Blue, remember, Zoro already lost 2 of his swords to Mihawk, okay? So the theory went that Zoro was going to get, you know, he got the Sandai at Logtown, he's eventually going to get the Nidai, and then the Shodai, and then he would have all 3 cursed blades, and he would be able to use them at once, and that would be like insanely powerful, right? Of course, then you realize, well, Zoro, of course, has the wado ichimonji, which is his signature weapon that he got from Kushina, so he would probably not Kushina, Kuina! I was like, wait a second, pause, back up. Kushina? That doesn't sound like a One Piece character. That's Naruto's mom. Okay, so Zoro got the wado ichimonji from Kushina before she died sealing Kurama inside of Naruto. Alright, are we all on the same page here right now? So, of course, obviously, Zoro would never trade the wado ichimonji for any blade. It's just the sentimental value to him is too high. It doesn't matter how cool the Shodai is, and we have to admit the Shodai is pretty damn cool. Like, even if Zoro did find the Shodai, like, let's say he fought against Samurai Gandhi at some point, and he won, and Samurai Gandhi took the Shodai Kitetsu, and he's like, you, pirate hunter, you are worthy of wielding the most cursed blade in the entire world. It's so edgy, but it's so damn cool. And then Samurai Gandhi dies, and he gives this over to Zoro, and it's like a demon comes out of it, like the spirit of Kitetsu, the swordsmith. It's like a damn devil from Black Clover, like, you, pirate hunter, you shall wield me, and together we shall rule the world. If all you need to do is pick me up, and my demonic power is yours. Zoro would be sitting there like, man, that is pretty badass, but I can't trade the wado, I'm sorry. He's like, no, but we could have been great together. Alright, later on in this video, I have an absolutely out-of-the-universe theory that can explain a way that Zoro can actually use all 3 Kitetsu swords at once, while also keeping the wado. Alright, I have this crazy theory. I don't know if you guys are ready for it yet, so just wait on that for a little while. Try to mentally prepare yourself for the theory, and I'll get back to that in a couple of minutes, okay? Just setting it up for that, alright? So, first though, let's talk about, let's at least talk about the Nidai a little bit. Like, how's this going to go? I've brought this up before, so I'll just mention it a little bit here, okay? So, yeah, I mean, it's possible the Sandai at some point could either get destroyed at Wano because it is, like, Zoro's weakest sword in terms of Meito rank. It's a Wazamono. Both of Zoro's other swords swords, the Enma and Wado, are both Owazamono grade swords. So that's like 2 ranks below it is this. But even if it doesn't get destroyed, there could be a moment after the battle when Tekking101 Kitetsu sees how worthy Zoro has become with wielding Enma, especially if Zoro upgrades Enma. I did a video about that last week talking about Zoro upgrading Enma to a Kokuto and a Saijo Owazamono in its own right. So maybe Tekking101 is like, tell you what, Zoro, you give me back the Sandai, which remember, Tekking101 was the one that made this. Tekking101 Kitetsu made the 3rd generation Kitetsu sword. You give me back the 3rd generation, which is like my baby, and then I will give you the Nidai, which was made by my ancestor, Kotetsu. Okay, it goes Kitetsu, that was the one that originally made the Shodai, and then Kotetsu made this, and then Hitetsu made Sandai, okay? And these aren't like, you know, father, son, grandson. These are like throughout the generations. It's very possible the Shodai could have been, you know, forged back during the Void Century. Maybe that's why Samurai Gande does probably have it, okay? But yeah, so that might be one way Zoro can get the Nidai, trading it for the Sandai, okay? But how would Zoro end up getting all 3 together and use them at once, all right? Well, are you ready for that theory? Are you ready? Okay. He gets the Nidai from Tekking101. And then eventually he gets the Shodai from Samurai Gandhi or whoever. And then he decides to use all 3. You know, a sword doesn't need to break for Zoro to use, you know, another sword. Like, it is possible for Zoro to, like, have more than 3 swords, right? Right? Like, it is. Like, for example, if he's leaving Wano and Tekking101's like, here, take this. And Zoro's like, I can't. I already have 3. That'll give me 4 swords. He's like, all right, then just sometimes use the Sandai and sometimes use this. You know? Like, Zoro could still have Wado and the Enma, but if he gets the Shodai and the Nidai, maybe in one particular battle, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna shelve the Wado and the Enma for this one battle, and I'm gonna use Sandai, Nidai, Shodai all at once. They don't need to break. I mean, I know you could always say, well, that's not really Zoro's style. He prefers just to have 3 swords. But there's really nothing stopping him from owning more than 3. His style is Santoryu, so that's the maximum number he can use at once. But you know where I'm going with this? He has a room on the Sunny. He has like a sword rack, I'm assuming. He could just like, all right, in this battle, I don't feel like using the Sandai. I'll use the Nidai, the Enma, and the Wado. And he could switch them out, you know? Crazy idea, right? I mean, like, that probably won't happen, but there's nothing preventing him from that. You know what would actually be really funny? Is if when they're leaving Wano, let's say Tekking101 just tosses him the Nidai. Like, there's nothing wrong with the Sandai. He still has it, but Tekking101 gives it to him, and there could be a joke where Luffy or Usopp could, like, joke around with Zoro, like, hey, Zoro, are you gonna use 4-sword style now? And Zoro's just like, 4 swords? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of, Luffy. Who the hell would use 4 swords? Now, 3-sword style, that's the apex. Any more than that, and it's just ridiculous. It's a circus routine at that point. 4-sword style. And then there's just sad Kaku noises in the background. Kaku, wherever he is in the world, just starts openly weeping. And Rob Lucci's like, why are you crying? And just like, it's just, I don't know. I just feel like someone's making fun of my 4-sword style. Just like, whatever, get over it. You know? But yeah, that would be funny. Like, Zoro's like, alright, I'll take it. I'm still only gonna use Santoryu. He's like, yeah, but it's safer with you. I mean, you're the guy that mastered the Sandai, this cursed blade. Apparently, cursed blades really like Zoro and are, like, attracted to him like a damn magnet. So why not have 4, and you can use 3 whenever you want. You can switch them out. You have backups in case... How useful would it have been to have a backup when Yubashiri broke? Yubashiri broke at Eni's lobby. Shu just rusted it, and Zoro's like, oh shit, I don't really have any other I don't have any other options here. I guess I'm just gonna have to keep sailing around until I run across a samurai zombie at some point with this immensely powerful blade. You know, like, hopefully. Here's something else to talk about. Because we discussed how Zoro's going to up his rank in the Enma, and maybe even the Wado. So when I mentioned the Enma in that video, like Enma becoming a Saijo Owazamono grade sword, a lot of people are like, well, that's awesome, that's fine and dandy, but I would really prefer the Wado to be the one that becomes the Saijo Owazamono, because that's the blade Zoro has kind of had the longest. There could be an interesting moment with that with Zoro and like what Oda could do, where it could be like, okay, the Enma is, you know, it achieved that status not all because of Zoro, because Odin kind of helped get it along that path as well, because, you know, Odin had it for a very long time and he fought Kaido with it. And so it was the combination of Odin and Zoro's efforts that made the Enma a Saijo Owazumono great sword. But when it comes to the Wado Ichimonji, that would be almost entirely Zoro. Because, yeah, Kuina had it for a little while, probably Koshiro had it a little bit before her, but, you know, it was Zoro's sword that he used most of his life. So you could have Enma become a Saijo first, and then you could have Wado become a Saijo nearing the final parts of the saga, of the story, right? At that point, when they're at Laugh Tale or something, that's when the Wado becomes a Saijo or something like that. Also, you got to talk about the Sandai here. Could the Sandai also be upgraded? And if it can be, because I'm assuming, you know, any sword that has a Meito can achieve a higher rank, it's just really hard to do. It's not something that it's just like, oh, you cut down this one strong person. It's upgraded immediately, because that hasn't happened yet. It really has something to do with, like, the aura of the blade itself, because Zoro was able to sense the Nidai, had this, like, aura coming off of it, and, you know, probably because it was cursed, but also Zoro could just sense that it was a Meito just by looking at it, okay? So, it has something to do with that. Swords in One Piece are not the same as Bleach with, like, Zanpakuto toe spirits inside of them, but they do have, like, their auras or a soul in a certain sense. Enma certainly has a level of, like, awareness, because it's able to draw out the haki forcefully, and that's nothing we've ever seen before in One Piece, right? So there's like a level of sentience, but not really. These swords are a little weird. And it might also just be weird because it was like not Zoro, Odin's blade that was made by Kozaburo in this really specific way or whatever. So, you know, the thing is, the Sandai, though, is only a Wazumono grade sword. You know, after that, it's the Ryo Wazumono, and then Owazumono, and then Saijo. There could be a moment during this arc, though, where maybe after the war, Tenguyama evaluates the Sandai, and he looks at the Enma first, and he's like, oh, Enma has now been upgraded to a Saijo. You now have a supreme grade sword. And he looks at the Sandai, and he's like, you know what, Zoro? When I made this, it was just a Wazumono, but I think at this point, you have an Owazumono on your hands here from all the battles he's fought, like Mr. One, Kaku, you know, Hyozu, Pika, everybody that Zoro has fought up until this point in the story, Fujitora. Maybe it has ranked up, you know, multiple times. We just weren't privy to it yet, okay? Because Zoro is not a master swordsmith or anything. He just has like a little bit of a psychic connection to his blades, but Tenguyama is the master. Tenguyama would be able to look at a sword and tell you what its Meito rank is currently, okay? So maybe this is already an Owazumono, and so right now Zoro has all three Owazumono grade swords. I mean, that would be one way to look at it, right? But let's talk about the big thing, is that if Samurai Gandhi is the one that has the Shodai, how the hell would Zoro ever get that? Because that would involve Zoro directly confronting a member of the Gorosei. That's assuming the Gorosei are like that level of strength. Like, we can assume if he does have the Shodai, Samurai Gandhi would be pretty damn powerful. And yes, that's the name I call him because we know none of the names of the Gorosei, so I just have to go on their appearance. He's obviously based on Gandhi, so therefore Samurai Gandhi. Are the Straw Hats going to encounter the Gorosei? I mean, I would love to see that happen. The problem is the Gorosei never seem to leave Marijois. Like, they're always in Marijois. Their central focus is that of running the world government, okay? Yes, they take their orders from Eam, but Eam also never leaves Castle Pangaea. In fact, he never leaves, like, certain rooms of Castle Pangaea. So therefore, the Gorosei, who are effectively the oligarchy that are the symbol that actually rule the world government from the civilians' point of view and the Marines' point of view, like, the Gorosei and only a few select servants are the only people in the entire world of One Piece that actually know about Eam's existence. So it would make no sense for the Gorosei to just leave, okay? Especially not all together. I mean, maybe one or two of them leaving, maybe, but even then, probably something that they really don't want to do. So you'd think that the Straw Hats would have to come to them. Now, there is setup to that because Sabo has apparently been killed. He's not dead, but he's been reported to be dead by the World Economic Journal, so he's probably just captured in Castle Pangaea. If Luffy were to find out about this and look at Sabo's Vivre card after Wano, he might be like, screw everything, stop the presses and the adventure, going to Laugh Tale, finding the One Piece. I am not letting another one of my brothers die. Just after I found out I got him back, there's no way this is happening. And this time, much like, you know, what happened with Ace, except Luffy has his crew now, okay? So, of course, Luffy's crew would follow him to hell and back. So if he says, guys, we're going to we're going to Marijois, the Holy Land, to get back my brother, Frankie would be like, all right, Captain, I'll modify the Sunny with a hot air balloon or something. I'll install the rocket thrusters. They'll be ready by tomorrow. And Zoro and Luffy and everybody's like, yeah, let's do this. And they just blast off and they go to Marijois and they're fighting through everybody and they rescue Sabo. VV2 is probably captured. Maybe Robin runs into Eam at some point. That would be a cool confrontation. And Zoro runs into Samurai Gandhi and he fights him and he gets the Shodai. All right? And maybe there'll be a final battle where he's fighting Shiryu, where he's like, you know what? I'm going to take my Wado and the Enma, and I'm going to put them off to the side for right now, and I'm going to use all 3 cursed swords all at once against you. Because I have to say, it is a little bit convenient that there are 3 of these Kitetsu swords. There's only 3, and what style does Zoro use? 3, okay? So, in that instance, I have to feel Oda was like, I don't know if this is going to happen, but I want to set it up that it can, alright? It's just weird. There's not 4 cursed swords. Well, there are more than cursed. Like, Law's sword, Kikoku, is cursed, but the Kitetsus are revered as, like, the absolute most cursed in the entire world, alright? So, that's a little bit strange that the way Oda set that up. So, maybe just for one battle, he uses all 3, and it's some wicked demon thing that literally manifests in the physical world that, like, grabs Shiryu and, like, crushes out his bones, and there's blood everywhere, and it's like some demon typhoon where maybe Zoro can have an attack that literally opens up the gates of Gehenna or something. Like, that would be really sweet. That would be really sweet. I'd also like to learn the history involving this Kitetsu dude. I mean, that's a pretty impressive kind of legacy that you have. He's infamous because of the curse and everything, but still, it's an interesting story. Like, hey, who knows? Maybe Kitetsu, the original Kitetsu, might have had connections to the Kozuki clan way back during, the Void Century. Not a Kozuki clan member himself, but, because Kitetsu was his surname, but he was, like, maybe the blacksmith of, like, the greatest blacksmith in all of Wano for the Kozuki clan back in the day, and he got corrupted or something happened to him, or he became mad with power, or just, like, a bloodlust or a murderous intent, and he began to, like, use his own blood, like, he would, like, mutilate himself and use the blood to forge his swords. Like, maybe that's the secret. Because here's the thing. Tekking101 Hitetsu has made other swords. Ame no Habakiri is another example. Ame no Habakiri, from what we understand, is not a cursed blade. Sandai is. So here's what I think happened. With the Kitetsu, the original Kitetsu, however long ago that was, I think he left behind, like, a document or a scroll or something that's like, this is the forbidden sacred technique or demonic technique in order to craft a cursed Kitetsu blade. They're some of the most sharpest blades in the world, but you only make one when you are confident that you can control it. It's sort of like Muramasa of legend. The story of Muramasa is that it was a swordsmith that created a blade, and the blade is sometimes also referred to as Muramasa, like the swordsmith and the sword both share the same name. But at any rate, the idea is the sword could not be sheathed at night until it tasted blood. So that's the origin, okay? But they're really, really powerful. They're just really, really dangerous and hard to control and everything because of the curse. So maybe he left this scroll behind of, like, this weird bloodletting, sacrificial, demonic ritual that you have to perform in order to make one. And so the original Kitetsu was, like, maybe out of his mind, and he made one with, like, his own blood. Maybe that's how he died. I don't know. Like, he made the sword, he poured his soul into it, then he died on it or something. And, like, that would explain why it's cursed. And then a few generations later, his descendant, Kotetsu, made the Nidai with the same kind of documents, and then those got passed down to Tekking101 Hitetsu, who we don't know when the Sandai was forged, but it was probably several decades ago for it to go from Wano all the way to a random shop in the East Blue somewhere, right, an Ippon Matsu shop. So, Tekking101 Hitetsu's like in his 80s. He probably forged this maybe when he was in like in his 20s or 30s or whatever, and he found the scroll, and he's like, maybe he didn't believe in the curse, maybe he's like, I'm just gonna follow this formula, but I can control it, and he couldn't. And maybe he went crazy for a little while. Maybe he murdered somebody, and then whatever, he threw away the sword, and it eventually found its way on a cargo ship, which eventually found its way to the East Blue at Logtown at Ippon's shop, or something of that nature, right? Maybe Ippon found it. Maybe there was like some battle or something, and there was like, oh, maybe a Marine soldier that had this, and he found it, and he's like, I know what this is. I'm gonna take this and put it in my shop, but I can't bring myself to sell it. That sort of situation, right? So, yeah, Shodais and Nidais and Sandais and Meitos and Santoryus and Yontoryus and Goroseis and Samurai Gandhis. The whole thing is really convoluted, to be honest with you. But if there's a few takeaways to take away from this video, Zoro using all three Kitetsu blades at once would be the most epic demonic thing in all of One Piece. He could still keep the Wado and Enma. He could upgrade the Wado, Enma, and Sandai to a higher rank. They might very well be already. All blades can become Kokuto, in the words of Dracula Mihawk, and it would be really cool if the Straw Hats fought the Gorosei. None of these really are any concrete, like, theories, like, oh, I know exactly how this is gonna happen, but they're a list of really cool things that could happen in One Piece, so just keep that in mind. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking, this will be Barry, and the Kitetsu brothers signing out. Later, everyone.